Also, stop casting Jared Leto and shit. He's not a good actor. I'm tired of seeing him.
Anyway, Guardians.
Yeah, James Gunn. This is his final effort for Guardians, and
it kind of feels like that. Like not to get too much into spoilers before their time, but there's some hints in that direction.
Yeah, not just for James Gunn, but also for some of the characters, which was also contradicted at the end with a big splash thing, which we'll talk about. So on the whole, I've never cared about Guardians of the Galaxy that much. Yeah. I don't think I saw them when they came out, and I think I went back and watched. I don't think I saw them. Okay, let me start over. As far as the MCU goes, I liked Iron Man.
Okay,
and that was about it.
Okay,
I saw Captain America when it came out. I enjoyed Civil War. Like I went to go see that in theaters, and I thought that was pretty cool. Infinity War happened, and I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And I was immediately an MCU fan.
Okay.
And before Infinity War, I hadn't seen Guardians. And they're in it a lot, right? I mean, Peter Quill fucks the whole universe.
Yeah.
And so like I went back and watched them. I didn't love them. And we were talking about this the other night at the theater. I can't tell if I don't like Chris Pratt just because I don't like Chris Pratt or because Peter Quill fucks the whole universe, and I've never forgiven him for that in Infinity War, because Chris Pratt famously was in Parks and Recreation and was really good in it. It was probably one of my favorite. There are so many favorite parts of that for me, but I'm just kind of over him. So like going into Volume 3, I was just like, at least fucking Groot and Rocket and Gamora and fucking what's her name?
Nebula.
And Mantis. Like I like I like them. So like that'll be enough to entertain me.
So I did see Guardians 1 in theaters, and I remember liking it pretty good. Like it was up there. Like it wasn't like world shattering or anything, but it was a fun time.
You know what I love about how James Gunn does music really well, and
yes,
like all the songs are diegetic, and I guess when he writes his scripts, he puts in the song titles.
We should mention for the people at home who aren't giant music nerds like us, diegetic is when a music is playing in the movie or the TV show or whatever, and it's actually the same song that we're hearing as the audience.
Yeah, and the characters are also hearing it. Yeah.
So like a lot of the times in the Guardians movies, like someone will walk around with headphones on and we'll be hearing the music they're listening to. Yeah,
and he uses that to great effect in storytelling, and it's really great. So I was kind of mesmerized by this movie, not expecting to be, which it was a really nice surprise. And it turns out the reason, and I'll say before spoilers, is because leading up to the movie, James Gunn made a comment on social media that all three Guardians movies, the secret protagonist of all three of them was Rocket the Raccoon, and people just didn't know. And that's how he thought about it.
Yeah.
And that really comes to a head in this movie. And I see him as a far more interesting character than Peter Quill. And so, look, if you like Peter Quill, that's fine.
Which is really funny because, like, to this point, Rocket has been the guy who flies the ship and shoots the big guns.
Yeah.
Like, that's who he is. That's what he does. He snarks and he flies the ship.
Yeah, but he's got this whole thing, even in the first two movies, where he doesn't really know where he's from. And he has a little bit of, he's kind of self-conscious about it. Like, when people... Because everyone calls him a different animal. Fucking Thor called him a rabbit.
A badger.
Because by the way, I guess on Asgard, that's what rabbits look like. So that's why. Yeah. And so in Endgame, when they're doing their time heist, when they're running away, if you're listening really carefully, you can hear one of the Asgardian guards say, "Catch that rabbit," because I guess that's what rabbits look like on Asgard. It's raccoons.
Sure.
And so like he's got this whole.
It's really funny that Peter Quill is the only one who identifies him as a raccoon. Every time Rocket says, "I'm not a raccoon,"
yeah, and he gets really pissed about it, right? And there's that whole part of his his backstory that's just kind of like they always have a shot of him in one of the movies where he doesn't have his shirt on. And you see him from the back, and like he's got cybernetics, right,
and screws,
and you can tell like something really terrible happened to him, but he never talks about it. He's like really scarred by it and stuff. So we're gonna get into spoilers for this. So if you've not seen this yet, it's only been out for a couple of days.
We're not blaming you. Just go see Guardians 3. It's good. You'll enjoy it.
And this is one of those things where we don't like. I wouldn't post spoilers about this on social media for a few weeks, just because not everyone can just drop everything and go and see a movie and shit. So this opens up. This tells you what kind of movie it is in the first scene, which is fucking little baby Rocket the raccoon as this adorable, pathetic little raccoon,
maybe a week old.
Yeah,
in this cage with a bunch of other little baby raccoons,
and he gets yanked out and
start
experimented on,
screwing and sticking computers in him and stuff, and all that.
And he's a product of the
high evolution,
the high evolutionary, right? Which is honestly, when you consider some of the terrible shit he's done, he might be on the same level as like Thanos in some ways. Before Thanos killed half the universe.
Who was the actor who played High Evolutionary?
Oh, who is that?
This was another like really, really well done performance, I think.
Yes. What's his name? Hold on. I'm going to not say this correctly. I want to make sure this is the right guy. I should have looked this up before.
I think it is.
Film. Yeah, this guy. So Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yeah.
What a great name.
Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yeah.
Brilliant performance.
He did a great job.
Because like his character almost has that psychopath thing where like he can be
he's
charming.
Fucking crazy.
But he can be like charming and invite you in and then start screaming at you about how he wants to achieve his goals and nothing you do matters. And
is also completely unaffected by anyone's plight. Doesn't care. The only thing he cares about is what he's doing, right? And so, like you get a glimpse of what the Guardians are up to. They're all like living on nowhere. Yeah. The decapitated and deceased head of a
god or something.
No, it's one of the things from Eternals. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
One of the
Celestials.
Yeah, one of the big boys. Yeah. And they're all just hanging out. Yeah. Fucking so we established in the movie theater that you haven't seen the Christmas special yet.
Yes.
Which you should watch because it's honestly kind of great.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons is because Peter Quill isn't in it very much. But
it's like Rocket's walking around watching everyone do all this stuff. Yeah. He comes down to the bar where Peter Quill is plastered out of his mind because he can't get over the fact that Gamora doesn't love him.
The Gamora thing is really just hitting him, and so it's worth noting that. Is it the Guardians 2 where they meet the Sovereign, or is it Guardians 1?
It's 2. It's the very opening of Guardians 2.
And if you're paying attention in Guardians 2, he steals a battery.
And that's a major plot point because the Sovereign are chasing him for the rest of the movie.
They can't handle stolen batteries. That shit is like crazy.
So from out of fucking nowhere comes Adam Warlock, who crashes into nowhere and just starts beating everyone up.
Which, by the way, this is that one dorky fucking kid from that one. He's in Maze Runner. I don't think he was in. I don't think he was in High School Musical. Yeah. He was in one of the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe movies. He's mostly a comedy actor. I think he's generally kind of ridiculous, but now it's kind of hot and like kind of buff and everything.
But he works for this role because
he's good. He's legitimately good.
Adam Warlock is this straight man character as envisioned in the MCU. Like he's so serious about everything that it's funny.
Yeah, but also the funny thing about him is that he has the mentality of a child because to him it's like he was just born.
Yeah.
Because he was in that cocoon. It's in one of the post-credit scenes for Guardians, and I guess the High Evolutionary is like, take him out of there, and they're like, no, it's too early. It's like, fuck you, take him out. And so he's like not ready yet or whatever. And I think I like him in the movie, and it's a good addition to the movie. They could have had the entire film without him, and it probably would have worked. But I'm glad he's in it.
I think it would have been a lesser film without him.
Yeah.
So anyway, like all the Guardians take turns fighting Adam Warlock, and he
fucking why can't I never remember her name? Nebula. Fucking. With her jetpack and she like her blaster arm, which she apparently has like some Stark nanotech now, and like one of her arms can like configure into different things, and she like blows the shit out of him. She's like on the floor, and Nebula might be my favorite character in these movies. I think she's fucking great.
She also has the straight man thing from Adam Warlock, but she's also just much more like directly angry at people.
Yeah, she's always seething. Like she's like just barely containing how pissed she is. Groot, who is like jacked Groot now, like gets decapitated. And he looks like
and then his little head grows spider legs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he looks like John Carpenter's The Thing. Yeah. And then like I think Peter tries to fight him and gets his ass whooped.
Yeah.
And then Rocket
Rocket like takes some serious internal injuries before Adam Warlock fucks off, and they're like, "Oh shit, we got to operate on him." Except we can't because there's a kill switch inside of him that'll blow up or something if we try to operate on him.
So it's like a tampering device.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So that's the motivation for the first 2/3 of the movie. Is they need to go figure out how to fix Rocket.
Right. They need they need to know where he came from.
Yes.
So that they can get a code that'll
deactivate the kill switch so they can go
because when they put the med pack on him to save him, it kills him more.
Yes.
Like it does not help. And throughout you're given a glimpse into his origins.
Like he's flashing back to his origins.
Yeah. He has his first friends are other misfit experiments.
Yeah, they have like a walrus, an otter,
Teef.
and a rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Teef, Lila, and Floor.
Yes.
Because that rabbit's an idiot. They're all adorable though.
Yeah.
And they're all real gross and icky.
But like Lila the otter has like robot clamps for arms.
Teef has
wheels instead of legs.
Literally mechanized eyelids. Like he doesn't have his own eyelids. They like blink mechanically. It's real gross.
And Floor has these like robot spider legs
and a thing on her face. Yeah.
It's all very disturbing.
Yeah, it's kind of gross, but they're adorable.
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job of like, how do we make them seem horrific but also lovable, which I thought they did a pretty good job doing. But like as far as that thread goes, like, Rocket dreams of building and flying spaceships and wants to fly away with his friends and into the forever and never ending sky or whatever.
Like the High Evolutionary takes him into his cloning experiment labs or whatever and says, yeah, we do this thing and we, evolve this turtle into a turtle man, except it makes him super angry and he has to beat everything up.
Which, how do you know that's not just how turtles are? I mean, they look pretty fucking angry.
Rocket's like, well, why don't you just do the thingy with the technobabble? And High Evolutionary's like, let's try that.
Wait a minute.
And then it works. And High Evolutionary's like, how the fuck did you, a dumb fucking raccoon, figure out what I, the High fucking Evolutionary, couldn't?
Yeah.
And he gets real butthurt about it.
Right. He considers himself a god.
Yeah.
Right. And he gives himself the license to improve all of existence. And
so he's like, all right, we're going to fucking kill all your friends, cut open your brain, figure out how it works so that we can, make things better for everyone else. Rocket's like, actually, I don't want you to cut open my brain.
I don't think I will allow that.
Yeah. So they throw him back in jail. He assembles this key card out of some scrap.
Well, in a previous scene, they kind of show him pocketing items every once in a while. He just kind of snatches shit.
So he busts himself and his friends out of prison, and the High Evolutionary shows up and starts shooting and kills his friends. And Rocket gets pissed and like claws his face off.
Yeah, and this is really heart wrenching too when he turns around and he sees his friends die. I don't know how they put so much emotion into a fucking CG raccoon, but he like. He does this scream like where he just boils over, and it's really convincing. And it's crazy how much humanity and personality and pain they put into the CG character.
We were saying watching the credits, like at one point the entire screen was full of the names of digital artists. That's how they did it. They had a billion fucking people working on it.
Yeah, so he's like, I'm gonna claw your face off now. Fuck you, and he does it, and
then he escapes and steals a ship and gets the fuck out.
Yeah, it turns out the resistance that he meets on the way to the ship, his friends probably wouldn't have made it anyway.
Yeah.
So it was going to happen either way, and so he escapes, and the rest is history. It ends up with the Guardians. And
meanwhile, in the present, the Guardians are like, all right, we got to go to this weird meat station that's floating in space. How do we get in it? Nebula's like, don't worry about it. I know a guy. So they show up. And it's the motherfucking Ravagers led by Sylvester Stallone, and including Gamora, who's just a Ravager now.
Yeah, and she's doing her fucking emo. I'm a mean bitch.
Like she has none of the character development from the previous two movies,
right? None of the experiences, which makes sense. I think it's really funny that one of their members is in the comics is the Sorcerer Supreme from a different universe.
Yeah, and so he's like making the teleport portal,
the sling ring things. Yeah. I thought, and he emotes with his magic because I don't think he has a mouth.
Yeah, he doesn't have a mouth. So they're like, all right, here's the plan. We're gonna give you fucking spacesuits and disguises. You're gonna go in the meat station, steal the thing, and we'll pick you up.
Yeah.
So they do, and like while
they have those goofy fucking spacesuits,
with the weird buttons with colors that you think correspond to their suits, but apparently don't.
Yeah.
So Peter Quill has this like real like please love me again conversation with Gamora
and it's
that
painful
everyone is listening to.
It is really painful to listen to, and I thought it was really funny that he's like, why didn't you tell me to stop? And they were just like, we're just hoping it would stop on its own. We just thought you would shut the fuck up, but you didn't. Everyone thought when they saw the trailer with those suits, by the way, they all thought that they were the Among Us video game suits, but I guess it's actually a nod to 2001: Space Odyssey.
Okay.
I think that's what it is.
Sure, I believe it.
So they get in and they meet fucking Nathan Fillion is
a security guard
in a weird meat suit.
Yeah,
that whole thing is very weird. I don't understand.
And they bond over like having a subordinate who's very awkward,
stupid. Yeah, stupid. Very very stupid.
So like,
you know who else is kind of everyone in this movie is a standout. Except for Peter Quill. I fucking love Drax. I think he's so fucking hilarious. And I'm being a little unfair toward Chris Pratt because there are a couple of moments where he acts the fuck out of his part and does a really good job and hits some emotional strings and is really effective. And
so something I heard about this movie that I think I agree with is that previous Guardians movies tended to feel the need to fill every scene with a punchline and put jokes everywhere. And this was the first Guardians movie where they were okay with ending on a serious note, where not everything had to be a joke. Yeah.
Which is kind of become in a way an MCU problem too. There are a couple of I consider Avengers Endgame to be one of the most perfect films I've ever seen. With a few exceptions. And one of them are the weird, inappropriate, like at the end, when they're trying to figure out who's going to wear the gauntlet to bring everyone back. And Thor, who's having this crisis, this fucking, I am worthless, I'm not worthy, let me do this. Like, I have to do something to redeem myself. And like he says something like, what do you think is running through my veins right now? And then Don Cheadle's like, fucking cheese whiz. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is a serious scene. Just shut the fuck up.
This is a problem you can trace all the way back to Avengers, at least with Joss Whedon. Because like that is
it's because
that's Joss Whedon's trademark. He writes real quippy, real funny dialogue.
Also, Robert Downey Jr. is a master of delivering it too. So like it really works.
So it works in some contexts, but like Marvel writers, please, we're begging you, know when to be serious.
Yeah, it's
like jokes are great. I love the quips and the one-liners just as much as anyone else.
Yeah,
there are times to be serious.
Yeah, like that cheese whiz thing almost ruins that scene for me because it's just so out of place and so uncalled for, and it's. We should do an Endgame retrospective at some point because I could talk about that movie for fucking hours. I love it so much. So they get in.
So they're on the meat station, and Star-Lord,
it's a really good name.
Star-Lord and Gamora and Nebula are going after the MacGuffin they need, while Drax and Mantis are going off to.
Everyone's got their thing.
Yeah. And there's this funny spot where Mantis like touches a security guard and says, "You're in love with Drax now."
Yeah.
And Drax is like, every fucking time.
Yeah, you can tell this is not the first time that's happened. And it's really well acted and it's really goofy and shit. And their dynamic, by the way, Mantis and Drax are just fucking great. And I'm a little surprised that they're not like together.
A couple.
Yeah, because it makes sense in a real weird way.
Really does.
Yeah. But I appreciate that. But like you can have a platonic relationship like that too, so that's kind of nice.
So Star-Lord finds a secretary who's working in the MacGuffin office, and he's like, "Hold up, ladies, I'm gonna go charm her." Yeah. He walks up and completely fails to charm her, and Gamora's like, "Fuck this!" Walks in, points a gun at her head, says, "Give us the MacGuffin right now."
Yeah,
and the secretary lady's like, "Okay, here's the MacGuffin."
It was really funny. You see, he was like, that was working, right? Like I was charming you. She's like, "I actually thought you were a douchebag."
No.
Yeah. Which is funny because he does that later. Toward they find out who they are and shit.
Yeah, and like he's talking to them like, I need to talk to every security guard here right now.
I can appeal to their humanity, and she's like, oh, it's like there's a moment where she's looking at him like, Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, fine. She turns on and says, okay.
Gives
here
him
you
access to the computer.
go. He's like, I just need access.
Yeah, I just fuck you. Here's some buttons everyone's floating.
Yeah. So they end up escaping.
Groot crashes the ship into the and picks everyone up.
There's another really great gag where Groot is doing his I am Groot and everyone just knows what he's saying.
But Gamora has no idea.
Yeah.
She's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
So they discover that they have to go to Counter Earth.
Yeah.
Which is a real place, apparently.
Right. In the comics, it's
it's like in orbital opposition to Earth, so like you can't
it's like in temporal phase. So
something
like it's
that,
in a weird time pocket or something. Yeah.
So they show up, and it looks exactly like Earth. There's sprawling suburbs, except they're filled with like pig people
and rabbit
other
people
animal
and
people.
Yeah.
So
oh my god! This moment's in the trailer where the one little girl like throws the kickball to Drax, and he just fucking pegs her with it. And it makes that sound. If you've ever played dodgeball in school, there's a weird sound a dodgeball makes when it hits you in the face.
Yeah.
And every nerd in the world knows that sound. How that was ever allowed in school, I will never know.
So they end up going to the tower where all the High Evolutionary and his people are, because they need a computer out of one guy's head because he has the missing data they need.
There's a hilarious, the first F-bomb, is the first uncensored F-bomb in the entire MCU is in this film, and it's brilliantly placed, and it's delivered by Chris Pratt, and it's really good, and like Nebula's trying to get into the car and
she can't figure out where to press the button.
Yeah, and she finally gets the button and she's like, now what? And he's like, get in the fucking car. And it's like, good. That's perfect. What a great way to use the F-bomb.
So Drax and Mantis are left behind to watch the ship. Gamora is like, just fucking call my people, tell them to pick me up. And they're like, we can't stop anywhere. We have to go do this right now.
Oh, we forgot the bit in the meat station where on their elevator ride where Peter Quill does a Avengers Infinity War and Endgame in 10 seconds like recap and is like, oh, this shit happened and oh, by the way, like she came back somehow and now she's just a huge fucking dick. And that
my favorite part of this, by the way, is Nebula just standing there looking increasingly uncomfortable.
Yeah, they also did a weird thing too where like there for a second Peter Quill considers Nebula as a romantic interest.
Yeah.
And
like Gamora's like, it sounds like you love her, and they're both like, no way. And they look away. Peter Quill looks at her and she doesn't look at him at all. He's like, stop it.
Yeah. And she said something about her eyes, and she's like my father would take me apart to torture me and gave me this. And he's like, well,
he picked a really nice
set. Yeah. Very black eyes. But yeah, that whole thing is fucking great. The humor in this movie is really on point.
Yes.
But so
Star-Lord gets to the tower and they're like, yeah, you and the tree person come in. She has to stay here because her arm's a gun. We don't allow guns inside.
By the way, War Pig, one of the guards at the front gate, voiced by Judy Greer, which I thought was the funniest shit in the world. See, they get up there to meet with a High Evolutionary, but they're not after him. They're after one of his like assistants who has like an implant
in his head. Yeah,
who they think that's where the code is that they need, or the MacGuffin, or whatever they're trying to do. And I think it was really interesting. It was so fucking typical that they walk into the room to meet with the High Evolutionary, and he gives them the please wait thing, and
he's doing something.
He's too busy, can't be bothered. And this there for a few years, I worked at a coffee shop owned by a couple of our neighbors in that neighborhood, because they had to fire someone for vandalizing the building or something, and like they didn't have anyone to work, like they didn't have anyone, so I went and learned how to be a barista for a couple of years. And there was his name's fucking Tom Nolan. I don't care about doxing him. He's a fucking realtor around here. Fucking douchebag.
Fucking go off, King.
Would come up to the driveway and leave his window rolled up because he was talking on his too busy on his phone. And he would give me one or two, meaning he wanted one or two iced teas, but wouldn't roll down his window to talk to me. So I got into the habit of pretending not to see him until he started rolling his window down, and I socially engineered him to not be a fucking douchebag. That's what I've done to High Evolutionary. Yeah. But Peter Quill doesn't have that kind of patience.
Yeah, so he just walks up to the guy and is like, hey, I need a computer out of your head. Yeah. High Evolutionary is like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, now you have time for us.
He does a really good line about, pretty much what he says is, I'm tired of the Thanoses of the world. Shut the fuck up, right? Because he bloviates about like, you know, his, like, I'm going to make everything perfect. And he's like,
bitch, we drove through the neighborhood. Like, there's a squid selling crack to children.
Yeah,
like, is that your perfect world?
Yeah. Which he was like, that's a good point. We are going to destroy all of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for pointing that out. But he was like, yeah, I don't have time for another fucking megalomaniac who wasn't loved as a kid, like Ego or Thanos or any of the other, things that he dealt with. And it turns out that Groot was hiding a bunch of guns in his buffness.
So a huge fight breaks out.
Yeah.
And High Evolutionary gets away, and Peter Quill and Groot are shooting everyone. War Pig at the gate had flown off to the ship. Drax and Mantis had gone to the pyramid thing because they figured Star-Lord needed help.
Yeah.
So War Pig gets on there because High Evolutionary wants Rocket for his brain to figure out how that works.
Because he can invent things. And that's something that no one else that he had ever built could do. Yeah.
So Gamora's the only one on the ship, and she's like trying to fight War Pig. Adam Warlock shows up because Gamora had thought she was calling the Ravagers, but
they're so uncoordinated. They don't know what's happening.
Yeah, but like the fucking Sovereign Priestess picked up and said,
and Adam Warlock is around doing things.
Yeah,
there's this
and
hilarious
like he adopted
bit.
this little furry thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's this hilarious bit where they try to interrogate someone, but he just kills him.
Yeah,
and like
show him we mean business. Okay, eviscerates him.
Yeah, and then during this whole set piece, his mother dies. Because he starts blowing up the planet because they were all failures, and he was starting over again, which is insane. This is the size of Earth, presumably the population of Earth, probably 8 billion people or beings or whatever,
something like that,
and just destroys everyone, just kills everyone. And you think that he's going to stop them, like he's going to stop the planet from being destroyed.
Nope.
No, everyone fucking dies.
It blows the fuck up.
Yeah, there's this great bit where what ends up happening is Star-Lord, Groot aren't on the ship anymore. Mantis and Drax are on,
and Nebula,
thinking that they're still there.
They get on saying we have to help Star-Lord.
But there's this really goofy bit where Peter Quill just jumps out the window.
Yeah.
And then Groot stops and then looks at the High Evolutionary and is like,
okay,
we're going.
Yeah,
bye. See you later. And he Peter has jumped out with the assistant guy with the implant. Groot fucking catches up to him and grows wings.
Yep.
And
like glides down.
But they forget to pick the guy up a little bit, and they just drag him along the ground and kills him.
Yeah.
And so they end up in this, he's just underwater, and Peter Quill's like, I guess I'll cut it out of your fucking head. And just cuts it out of it's a little grotesque and gross. It's kind of weird. So Drax, Gamora, and Nebula are on the ship. And
no, it's Drax, Mantis, and Nebula.
What did I say?
You said Gamora.
Oh, she's not. Oh, yeah, she's on the ship.
Yeah, she's on the other ship.
Right. And the information that they can get out of I am Groot is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Because he'll say I am Groot, and then Mantis will be like, what do you mean? It's four sentence long.
Yeah.
Oh, we were doing this, and I jumped off the ship, and then blah 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 blah.
Gamora's like, you're just making that up.
Yeah, you're just making it up. Yeah. And so they end up.
So the guys on the High Evolutionary ship are in this cargo hold full of a bunch of children in cages.
Yeah.
Which, politically sensitive.
Yeah, because that's never happened in American politics.
Yeah. They can't understand the children's language, and the children don't understand them. They get captured by the High Evolutionary and thrown in another cage. And then the kids come by and I'm trying to remember because everything's kind of jumbled at this point. So
we should have taken notes.
Yeah.
We probably should have seen it twice and taken notes on the second.
So on the Guardians ship, they figure out
if we miss anything, put it in the comments.
Yeah, they start figuring out and fixing Rocket, and Rocket has this sequence in his brain where he sees Lila again.
Yeah, or Lola. Yeah,
Lila. And he's like, "Can I come play with you guys?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And he flatlines, and we all think, "Oh my god, he's gonna die."
Yeah. And they kind of telegraph this a little bit in the trailer because one of the shots they show in the trailer is Peter Quill screaming over his body.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone kind of assumed that he was going to die.
And Peter Quill starts giving him chest compressions.
Yeah.
And then Lila's like, but not yet.
Yeah.
And then Rocket wakes up, and they have this big group hug.
Except that she calls him a raccoon.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not a raccoon. And that's when he gets pulled back to life or whatever.
So they have this big group hug, except for Gamora. She's not involved.
She's being a little emo.
Yeah.
She's having a moment.
And they're like, all right, we got to go rescue our friends who are on the High Evolutionary ship for some reason. So they go back. They call up Nowhere. They call the
The guy with the fin on his
Yeah.
head. Yeah. Which, by the way, there's a whole gag throughout this with Cosmo, the Russian dog.
Yeah.
Where the guy with the fin on his head
calls her a bad dog, and she's like, "No, I'm not a bad dog."
And it's a thing the entire movie. Like they're playing poker in this one scene, and she's like, the Soviets sent me up to space knowing I was going to die in a fiery, rocket explosion.
Yeah.
And they didn't even call me a bad dog, you motherfucker. And it's like,
he's like, I'm going to call you a bad dog if you're a bad dog.
Yeah, it's just like you can tell like just how wounded she is about it. It's fucking great. And a telekinetic dog, by the way, which how the fuck that actually ends up being really important later on in the movie too.
Does. So Nowhere shows up and like blasts a hole in the high evolutionary ship.
Yeah, because Nowhere has rocket boosters and can
and has a giant fucking cannon in one of the eyes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous and hilarious. Yeah.
So they find out Drax actually speaks the children's language, and like he didn't just. He's like, "Why didn't you tell us you could talk to them?" He's like, "Why didn't you ask?"
Yeah, he's such an idiot.
Yeah.
I love him. I love how like. There's a scene where he's trying to prove to Peter Quill that he knows what a metaphor is, and he clearly doesn't.
Of course not.
And it's so fucking hilarious
because he had been speaking a script that Mantis had given him about the
you need to move
pond
on.
Of life.
Yeah, move the fuck on, Peter Quill. Gamora doesn't want you. I think it's funny that what we know about Drax, like his big thing, is that Thanos killed his wife and daughter, and you can tell that before that. Drax apparently was a fucking great father.
Yeah.
Because he immediately gels with these kids. And like he
starts making monkey noises and they're all laughing and happy to see him.
He somehow knows their language and shit. And so they pretty much were like, let's save everybody. Let's fucking go. There's this great hallway fight scene.
Yes. So after the Guardians get on the ship, Adam Warlock is there again for some.
He doesn't know where to go. Yeah. He's got a pet thing, and he's like, "My mom's dead. What do I do?"
Yeah. So
whose side am I on?
Guardian's like, "All right, we got to rescue all these children." They walk down a hallway. A bunch of the High Evolutionaries goons come out, and to the tune of the Beastie Boys' "No Sleep Till Brooklyn," they have this awesome fight scene.
Fucking Groot is sticking an arm down throats, and it's kind of gross.
Explode.
Yeah, and
what I love about this scene is that. It looks like one shot, even if
there are hidden cuts, I think, but yeah.
And like every character,
it couldn't be a one shot because there's so much CG in it, but yeah.
But every character gets their own moment to shine.
Yeah.
With like Rocket bouncing around, blasting people, Peter swinging around.
Kind of being a badass.
His shocky things.
He puts one on a guy's ass.
Yeah. Like Gamora gets her sword out and starts cutting people up.
The Godslayer, yeah.
It's great.
I think because Nebula gets her neck broken, and her head's dangling there.
Never mind, I'm fine.
Yeah, it's this great. The whole thing about the Guardians of the Galaxy is that this group of friends is so closely knit, and they work so well together that when they turn it on, when they're like on the job and they're doing their shit, they're badasses. Like it's really fucking cool, and it's one last like. Everyone's together. Everyone's being a badass together.
Yeah.
And while I've never really loved the Guardians movies, I was like, this is fucking great. I love this. Is so cool.
They lean real hard into the dysfunctional family that actually works really well together when they can put their shit aside.
Right. Yeah.
Trope.
Yeah.
So the High Evolutionary is still doing his shit. They decide, all right, we're going to get Nowhere snugged up right against his ship. We're going to evacuate all the children and everyone's going to get off and it's going to be great. So they're evacuating the children. Rocket finds
the dog, by the way. Cosmo has to, because I can't remember why they can't seal between the two cargo bays or whatever.
Yeah, so they need Cosmo to telekinetically seal them together.
Which is kind of a huge thing if you think about it, like holding these two giant fucking things together. And like you care about the dog and you start to get really worried about her because like you can tell how strenuous and straining it is, and like she's barely holding shit together and everything. I'm a dog owner, so I'm like, oh my god, they better not hurt this dog. I'll fucking kill someone.
At some point in all of this, the High Evolutionary sent his goons to attack Nowhere, and the dude with the fin in his head gets a nice moment where he hears Yondu say, use your heart, boy. Yeah. And you see an image of Yondu, and someone walks past and it's gone. And he's like, yeah, all right. And he whistles and the arrow kills everybody.
He can't do it's the whole thing with the bad dog thing is he can't do the arrow. But Cosmo can throw rocks around with mine or whatever. But he finally finds his rhythm with the arrow of whatever the fuck.
Yeah. So again, the kid's out of there. Rocket looks back and he sees the storeroom where all the animals are stored.
Yeah.
And he goes in and he sees a whole bunch of little baby raccoons.
Oh my god, it just fucking kills me, man. It was just because there for a second, he gets all the raccoons onto him, and you think that they're just going to leave all the other animals too, because it's just the two of them or whatever. Yeah. I think it's before they decide that they're just going to take everybody or whatever.
So my favorite part of all this is that Rocket actually looks at the label on the cage and it says raccoons.
Yeah, he's like, son of a bitch. Yeah.
So he starts letting all the animals out, and he's on his way out, and High Evolution is like, wait a minute, you son of a bitch.
Time for a monologue.
Blah, 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 blah. I need your brain to make everything better. And Rocket's like, no, fuck you. And on cue, all the Guardians show up and just start beating the shit out of him.
They whoop his ass. Yes.
Yeah. And Rocket has him at gunpoint, and Drax is like, kill him. Rocket's like, nah, I don't want to.
Don't need to. Yeah.
He's a little bitch.
Yeah. It can't be bothered. Who is it that takes his face off? Is it Mantis?
I think it's Gamora.
Or maybe it's Gamora. She's like, ew. Ew, gross. And that's another, I'm like.
Rocket fucked him up.
Also, there were kids in our theater. They were little kids, and it's cover their eyes. Oh my fucking god! This is kind of gross.
His really chewed up meat for his face.
Yeah. And I think they just leave him there, right?
Yep. They leave him there while the ship is exploding. So presumably he's dead, but they could bring him back if they wanted to.
He'll probably just be dead, I bet.
So they get all the animals across. Star-Lord is the last one out, but he has to go back for his Zune, and he winds up getting stuck in space. And then fucking Adam Warlock comes out of nowhere and pulls him back
with
across.
the Michelangelo thing. Yeah. There for a second you think they're gonna, because there's that part from one of the early Guardians movies where he goes out to rescue Gamora and he puts his mask on her and he starts to freeze over because he's in a vacuum space. So you think that he's gonna die like that. Which if they're gonna kill Peter Quill,
that's a good way as any.
Yeah. He's not dying saving anyone. He just wants to get his iPod or whatever, but or Zune. Which was a thing in the early 2000s. I thought it was interesting that he uses an oxygen tube to give himself momentum. Yeah. But then he hits something, and since he's in space,
it just peters out.
Yeah, he kills his momentum and shit, and he gets bloated and gross. When he gets bloated, that's where I was like, okay, they're not going to kill him because this looks too goofy. Yeah. They would make it way more epic than this. Yeah. But yeah, fucking Adam Warlock with his slow finger, and it's you can it. I laugh out loud because it was just fucking ridiculous. The whole thing is fucking ridiculous. But he saved him, and it's well, Adam Warlock's a fucking good guy now, which I think in the comics he is anyway. Yeah.
So okay, let's take stock of everything where everybody's at. So Star-Lord, Peter Quill, really needs to reconnect with his humanity and stop just drifting through life. So he's gonna fuck off back to Earth and meet his grandpa. Yeah. Gamora is gonna go off and stick with the Ravagers because that's what works for her right now.
Yeah, and they do there are a couple of shots where it looks like her interest in Peter might not be as dead as she was claiming it was. Maybe it's because she learns more about him in the process of their hijinks, where she sees how caring and nice he is.
There's something there, I think. Mantis has lived her whole life in relation to other people.
Doing what other people wanted.
First with Ego and then with the Guardians. So she's going to fuck off and do her own thing for a while.
Which really upsets Drax. Yeah. Because they're fucking great together. Yeah. And
speaking of, Drax is going to hang out and be the dad for all the rescued children because he's the only one who speaks
makes perfect fucking sense.
And also he's a really good dad, apparently. Nebula is going to stick around and help lead the new Society of Nowhere with all their animals and weird alien children.
Yeah, it's literally the Society of Misfit fucking growth. That the last creature they rescue, this grotesque, disgusting thing with a fucking, I don't know, a sword as a leg or some shit. And it's this is a hilarious bit where Mantis is oh God, and she's oh no, I'm sorry, there's something really scary behind you. I wasn't doing that to because you were. That was real gross, but kind of adorable, and So all those and those three fucking monsters. Yeah. The Mantis no, these guys are friends now. Yeah. Because they eat batteries. They don't want to eat people.
They don't eat meat. So Rocket is going to be the leader of the Guardians. Yeah. Because that's it's what Rocket does. He flies the ship and he shoots big guns.
Yeah, and they can get Bradley Cooper for more movies.
Groot is going to hang out with Rocket because that's what he does.
Yeah.
And yeah, the minor characters also stick around on nowhere.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like breaking up the band.
Yeah.
Which is, again, what makes this feel
well.
Really
the
fun.
band's got some new members.
Yeah.
Like,
so we get a sequence of Rocket leading the new Guardians on
in a
this
post
other
credit,
planet.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's Rocket and Groot. It's Finn Guy. I think Cosmo's there.
Yep.
Adam Warlock.
The little girl.
And one of the little girls that they rescue.
Yeah. And fucking giant Groot.
Yeah, giant Groot.
He's like, he just gets bigger and bigger.
Like they're chilling in the desert talking about music, and like Rocket says, "Hey Groot, wake up!" And Groot like stands up, and he's like 30 feet tall.
Yeah. Oh, so the music thing was really funny because they're talking about their favorite like 2000s eras musicians or whatever,
Yeah.
and someone mentioned Britney Spears, and Finn Guy said Garth Brooks,
Yeah.
and I laughed really hard because I like as a lot of my development was in the Midwest, and I don't like country music.
Yeah.
But I love Garth Brooks. I don't know what it is, man. It just like, it's one of those things, and I fucking love Garth Brooks. So when he said that, I was like,
When it hits, it hits.
Yeah.
So they're doing the hero thing. We get another post-credit sequence of Peter Quill back on Earth, hanging out with his grandpa, eating cereal.
shows up, yeah. He bitches about the neighbor.
Yeah.
He
45 years old, just sits on the porch, watches me mow the lawn.
This could be a conversation John's having with me. So my partner John is the worst neighbor. he really is. Like he's so nice, but the second you miss mowing your lawn a day, he'll be in that window in the kitchen, being like, "Their fucking grass is real long." It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
And like, you leaned over to me in the theater and said, "I think Chris Pratt is done with the MCU."
Yeah.
And then immediately after, up on screen, the legendary Star-Lord will return.
Yeah. So
whoops.
because it's funny, like Chris Pratt indicated that this would be his last one. So is someone else going to take the mantle of Star-Lord, or is he just going to come back? And
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Overall, fucking great movie. I enjoyed it. It's been a bit for me, at least. It's been a bit since I've seen an MCU movie where I was like, "Oh, this really hit me kind of hard," because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness fell a little flat, honestly. Like I enjoyed it, but it was like, this is COVID era, like rough shit. Wakanda Forever I liked, but it was fine. Ant-Man was fine. Like I think My Name is Darren and I Am Not a Dick is my favorite part of that whole movie. Like, it was nice to watch an MCU movie, because I fucking loved Spider-Man No Way Home. That was brilliant, and I thought the returning Spider-Men were brilliant. There's a part of that movie I feel like there are certain MCU movies where there are things that happen where I just, like, when I see it, I just start to like cry. And in that one, it's when Andrew Garfield gets to rescue Zendaya, whatever the fuck her name is, or Mary Jane or whatever. And because if you've seen The Amazing Spider-Man, that's how Gwen Stacy dies. And there are so many moments in that movie. Also, Tom Holland is perhaps one of the sexiest men alive. So it was nice to have an MCU movie where I was like, I legitimately really loved this, instead of just kind of liked it,
What makes it work is the combination of emotional stakes, where like you see Rocket and his little adorable
the baby
furry
raccoons.
friends
It just
and all
fucking
the
it's
animals
crazy.
and all them getting fucked up by the High Evolutionary, and you're just like really rooting for them. And then the more restrained but still effective comedy writing.
If you want to get me against a bad guy, have him abuse animals. Like, that's a great way for me to be like, set him on fire, launch a nuke at him. Fucking over this guy. So yeah, overall,
Good
great.
movie.
Everything was great. Fucking loved it. I think we've gone on long enough.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for joining us on our special edition Saturday night's live stream. A couple of these videos will be on YouTube over the next couple of days. So make sure you go subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and join us on Discord as well. Talk about nerdy Star Wars things. We hope to see you there. Thank you so much, guys. We love you, and we will see you later.
Bye.